Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I actually do represent the Heartland, which is really the main street of the whole country, so you're welcome to come anytime. Administrator, welcome to the committee. Appreciate your testimony today. I wanted to ask you about your understanding of the GSA's role at the Bannister Federal Complex in Kansas City, which is a former facility that's closed, and I want to know a little bit about where it's going, but I first want to talk about where it's been. If you are aware, the Bannister Federal Complex in Kansas City made a variety of things. They made airplane engines during World War II, but later they shifted and began making components for nuclear weapons. And after many folks dedicated their career there, they became aware that they were exposed to significant amounts of radioactive material. There's been some $55 million actually paid out to these workers at a former GSA facility. But the vast majority are frustrated and they haven't been paid. And some live in my district, some live in Emmanuel Cleaver's district where the facility is located in Kansas City, Missouri. And the types of claims that have been uncompensated are pretty significant. You have hundreds of people with skin cancer, beryllium sensitivity, lung cancer, prostate cancer, chronic beryllium disease, chronic obstructive airway, female breast cancer, asthma, kidney cancer, bladder cancer, and the list goes on and on and on. And so I know this is a real tragedy that's occurred here, and these constituents are coming to me asking why their claims haven't been paid, only a fraction have been paid. And so I guess I'd first like to know, can you provide me any information about what the GSA's role was in that situation in terms of informing them of what they might be exposed to, and what are the general policies on that today for workers that may be being exposed to materials that could affect their health?
Yes, Congressman, thank you for the question. This has obviously been an ongoing item for the agency, and one that we will continue to address as concerns are raised. My understanding, and I've spent just a little bit of time with this item, is that we did have situations in which there were individuals who were concerned about illnesses related to the environmental health of the location. At this point, we have not made, GSA has not found that there was a connection between the environmental health of the footprint that is GSA. Obviously, there was a but we continue to be open and listening to any requests that are brought forward. But at this stage, we don't have any that have that we have identified where there was an illness, and as a relation of the illness that it was connected to the environmental health of the footprint managed by GSA.
So you're saying that the facilities weren't managed by the GSA?
The footprint that is the part of GSA's footprint. There is another agency.
So what was the portion that the GSA was responsible for?
I don't know the property well enough as I sit here to talk about specifics of the separation of the site itself, but there is a portion of the envelope that is GSA and a portion that's managed by another agency.
And to your knowledge, there's no overlap in terms of individuals that would be exposed to this radioactive material that would be GSA employees or GSA-controlled space?
Not to my knowledge as I sit here, but we will definitely work with your staff and work very closely with any concerns that have been raised to your attention as well. I would like to deal with those.
Yeah, I mean, I just have hundreds of constituents in my district that feel like their claims aren't being heard. Many of them suffering from devastating cancers. 554 people are deceased, and some of their claims have been denied. The approval rate for cases involving former workers at the plant is particularly low at just 23%, less than half the national average. So it's a problem that, my heart breaks for these folks, and I want to make sure the government's doing them justice and doing them right. So I just like your help to the extent that GSA can be involved in that to advocate for these workers to ensure that they are being properly compensated. And I guess my follow-up is, two follow-ups. One, what are the measures the GSA is going to take going forward to ensure that these types of things don't occur in the future for properties the GSA manages? What are safety measures that you yourself believe are in place? And then there's a timeline for cleanup of the facility for disposal, for the site for disposal and cleanup. Can you clarify your agency's involvement in that process?
Sure, and just to be clear, there were items that needed to be investigated by GSA, and we have done so, and we will continue to investigate any items that are brought to our attention. There's a number of things happening at that site because of the size of the footprint. We actually are expanding some presence there on certain parts of the site. And it would probably be worthwhile for us to come back to the committee staff and talk through the aspects of the site. But overall, we take the environmental concerns of our properties very seriously. Obviously, we have a number of properties that we manage, and really the environmental health of the employees that work there and the safety of those employees is something that is of high concern to us. So we will continue to, and we do with each of our sites, watch and monitor closely, try to ensure that we have an understanding of any vulnerabilities are there and follow up as appropriately. But we will definitely ensure that whatever steps are necessary here to respond to your constituents specifically in the project overall, that we continue to do that.
I appreciate that. Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back, but I'll just say that, the examples like these, I think, have to remind us that we have to be vigilant in making sure that federal workers who work at GSA facilities or other facilities that are exposed to harmful materials, that we do everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen and make sure that they're aware of it, protect them, and then when things do go wrong and we do have health outcomes, that we do everything to compensate them and make it right. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.